consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission: to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
All right. Hello, everybody in podcast land. This is Tim C. Starr, your host for The Universe Between Your Ears. I am flying solo on this episode. My co-host, Mr. Gabi Musheyev, is not with us today. Although if we get lucky, he may be able to jump in a little later. But I am joined by a new best friend of mine. Her name is Rima Aboulhosen. She's a heart-centered and empowerment speaker. She sees the world from two views. She was born in Lebanon and lived through a period of war. She later moved to the U.S. and had to adjust to a whole new world. Multi-talented from years of experience working in corporate America and owning and operating her own businesses, including managing restaurants and doing home design consulting and fashion consulting. Currently, she provides legal and identity protection services, working with Legal Shield and ID Shield. She has a magical view of the world, which she describes as life, liberty, and the pursuit of mindfulness. I like that. That's got to be the title of your next book. So, Rima, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Tim.
I've been looking forward to having a conversation. It's been a couple of weeks since we've seen each other.
Yes.
So let's just have a little fun. I think I want you to tell your story. But I think what I would like to do is kind of address sort of at a really high 30,000 plus foot overview of Legal Shield and ID Shield, because if I understand your story correctly, you're really doing that because of what happened in your family, right? And so it's germane to the whole conversation. So let's start there, if you would, and then you can, we'll go from there.
Sure, like just a little bit of the story of what got me into this.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Just tell your story.
Whatever you want to tell, and I'll tell it.
Maybe we just start over. Welcome. Yeah, just tell your story. Let's just go from there.
Sure, I'll just a little.
I don't need to rework the world.
I did come from Lebanon. I was born there and grew up in the States most of my life. And my parents worked extremely hard, just like a lot of immigrants that come to the States. They end up working extremely hard. Well, after years of going through that, they actually ended up in a lawsuit in their late 70s that they really should have never been involved in. And it just changed the trajectory of their life. So I took that as the liberty that we're given being in the States, it can be shaken very easily. Mm-hmm. So that's why I kind of joined Legal Shield and ID Shield, understanding what their overall mission is, to just give people the ability to reach their rights that they have as citizens. So that's kind of my overall picture of why I'm passionate about it. Everybody should have access to the rights that we already have, but we normally don't because of the price.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Okay, great. So let's talk about sort of your and I'm trying to say something, and I'm trying to at the same time think about what it was that the very first time we met, you had said something that made me say, oh, I want to talk to her. I'm tempted to ask you what that was, but you probably don't know because it's in my head, not yours. But so outside of ID Shield and Legal Shield, I know you run a speaking group, right, to help people get used to speaking and get practice speaking and things. And in that group, you talk about your story, and you talk about a little more than what you just gave us.
Yeah.
Right. So can you do that for us? Can you kind of get into that and let's kind of get in, because this show is about mindset and perspectives and trying to give the audience something that they may be hearing for the first time, or they may be hearing in a different way, or just something so that, our hope is that they can turn around and use something in their own lives to improve their own futures. So I know that's part of what you're after.
Sure. Some of the story is just the change from coming from a war country to a country that's filled with freedom in a sense, and building a life here. And you start to take a lot of it for granted, and you start to think that it's always there for you. For me, it's been a journey of not just my parents going through their challenges, but also going through a life with my sister that went through cancer, spent 2 years with her just thinking that she's in recovery when really she was passing. And I didn't realize that till the last month of her life, when her oncologist basically called the family in and said, she's got 1 month to go. And at that point, it really hit me. I had been taking care of her. I'd been taking care of my business. I'd been, being the family person and doing everything and just kind of running around. Okay, check mark. It's all done. Yes, I've taken care of. Yes, I took her to the doctor. But when her oncologist said that, it made me realize I wasn't being present. Yes, I was doing those things, but I wasn't fully being in the moment, sitting, really grabbing every moment that I can with my sister. And that was an immediate shift for me. That's the part that woke me up, basically, that we're all running around. We all got agendas. We all have things on our plate and backgrounds to deal with. But we waste so much time not living the moments that we choose to live. So for me, we create these huge agendas every day, but people don't show up, or they show up and they're on their phones, or they show up and they're not even paying attention. It's like, why did you bother and show up?
Yeah.
You're missing your life. But I learned that lesson from having lived through the challenge with my sister. If that didn't happen, I probably would have still be going, okay, so what? Keep going.
Yeah,
so
going through the motions, right?
Yeah, very emotional, but very eye-opening. Very eye-opening.
So, in the Abraham Hicks world, one of the things that they talk about over and over and over again is contrast. And for anybody who's unfamiliar, contrast is just any experience or even any thought that you might have that you would rather not be having. It's that simple. But so they talk about how you want to learn to appreciate the contrast, because it's in the contrast that you have the opportunity to learn a lesson. Right? If that didn't happen, then we wouldn't be growing, and kind of, a fair question off behind that is, well, so what? Who cares? But growth is really ultimately is the reason that we're here, I think. And it takes different shapes for different people, but you really can't stand still. So you had this big experience of contrast, losing your sister in a very short time when you thought all was well.
Correct.
And so I got to believe there were other lessons that came out of it beyond don't take everything for granted. Anything else that strikes you right now that pops into your head?
Being very aware of who's around you, and just knowing that everybody is going really through something, whether they say it or not, for you to be very sensitive, in a sense, to who's around you, and don't project your inner sacrifice and challenges onto someone else. and be very aware that they're on their journey just like we are. That's the bigger lesson for me, is to just understand that everybody's doing something. Everybody's going through something. So my eyes are much more open when I arrive at a meeting or when I get to an event. The person that I see in front of me, I'm only seeing that little screen of who they are. But I don't know all the background that's behind them that I'm not seeing as they show up in front of me to introduce themselves. So I'm much more aware when I'm being introduced to know this is just a portion of who they are. And if that's all they want to share at this point, I need to be very alive and loving to whom they're willing to share with me at that moment. I don't know if that makes sense to you,
Sure.
the depth of...
Sure, it's accepting. It's just what you said. You said it pretty well. You're accepting whatever it is that they're willing to offer, right? Whatever they're ready at that moment to expose, right? So
to allow them that space,
right.
to be who they're willing to present at that moment.
I have to say something, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but I think probably this may already come across in this recording for anybody who's listening or watching. But in the few times that I have been face to face with you, and right now while we're talking, I have sensed this peaceful warmth and just this. I don't know what other words to use. Just this. It's an attractive quality, right? And it's amazing to me. And I'm not all that empathic or all that intuitive or anything else, but you have an amazing quality. So just throwing that out there.
And that's what I want to spread across the world. I want that form of empathy, that form of love to come across the world. So as we're doing our daily tasks and we run across someone, if we're having a bad day, really to be aware of ourselves and not to impose it on someone else. Mm-hmm. Or if we're at that point where we are having a hard time, even to be aware to say, excuse me if I come across in any way, shape, or form, but I'm having some things I'm dealing with. It changes the conversation.
Absolutely.
It just makes people more caring, more aware. Because I truly think if we start to be more real, we can really start to impact the entire planet.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we feel become conflicts can be resolved by letting someone know, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm dealing with something, I don't know how to deal with it, but I'm here to conduct a meeting and I'm very good at this part. So it just gives them a little more perspective of who we are.
It's a piece of asking for help. And when we are willing to ask somebody else for help, people want to help. And what you're saying is if you just say to somebody, listen, so basically what you're saying is, I need your help. I just need you to understand that I'm not the person that I would like to be in the moment. So just help me to get through it, right? And when you do that, people are going to respond.
I'm being human. I'm having a human reaction to something that I'm going through, but it doesn't affect how I'm going to connect with you and deal with you.
Right.
But if there's something, that's what it's coming from. It just gives you a little bit of bigger connection than business. Yeah. Hi, I'm Rima. Hi, I'm Tim. Okay.
Yeah. So I want to back up a short step here. when you were describing the idea of meeting somebody and what they're willing to share, and you just holding space for them. What I was hearing was really kind of the act of being mindful in the moment of the other person, right? And of your how you show up for them. And this is something that we are not, we don't normally practice. We're not taught. And, as we get older and we stumble into personal growth things or whatever, in certain circles, it's common language. But in most places, I think lots of people just are this is a new idea, and it's not something that they have ever been taught to do, right? So what I wanted to ask was, do you have and it's a habit that needs to be developed, right? It's like any other skill. You just need to practice, but you have to be conscious to practice it. So do you have a conscious exercise that you do prior to like going into an event of some kind, or maybe you don't do it anymore? It's just become a second nature thing to you now, or anything that you would suggest for people who want to be more in that state?
Yes. I start off my day, in a sense, by the first thing that I do in the morning is just take a few moments to just sit there and think for myself. Where am I? What is my day going to be like? What are my intentions for this day? So I set an intention for my day from the morning. Am I doing it every day? There are days that I skip, and I notice the difference then. I notice the difference the days that I don't. I just get up and I start going. The day doesn't flow as calmly as the days that I set intentions. And then I normally go into a gratitude session. And it's just my way. I tend to think of 5 people that I love, and I kind of send them gratitude in the morning of why am I so grateful to them, whether they're in my life currently, have been in my life. And I always look for someone that is no longer on this earth, and I send them gratitude and love for being still a part of my life and impacting my life. And I take the time. There are days I'm better at it than others. Sure. Of looking into 2-3 years from now and thanking me, finding me and thanking me for the things I have done that day that made an impact 3 years from now. Whether it's as simple as I'm going to be kind today, whether it's as simple as I'm not going to cut someone off if I'm driving, or some kind of an intention where your brain is going, oh, you're not doing that today. You're being much more mindful of it. So I do those routines in the morning, but then I carry them into the day because I'm aware of them. Right. I set it into my brain that this is my intention for today, and it affects me when I walk into a meeting. Before I walk in, I do exactly that. I check my phone. I check the things that I need to check, and I go, okay, my intention is to be caring. My intention is to be loving. My intention is to listen. My intention is to learn something from 2 to 3 people. So when I walk in, I'm really focused on that, and it just helps ground me and bring me back when I start to stray, because we can all stray in our own mind. Sure. With conversations and this and that. It just brings you back. So it is an intention that's set and a reminder. And I learned it partially from Brendan Burchard. I don't know if you've heard of him. He actually teaches you to set like an alarm and put like 3 words that remind you at so many intervals during the day to be whatever it is that you choose to be. So I took that thinking and made it into my own way of an intention versus just an alarm, so that I can every day. And then I take that all the way till the evening, And I'll go and recap in the evenings. Like, what was my day like? Did I fill out my intentions? Did I actually accomplish what I thought I was going to accomplish? Because it's the bigger picture of that. Those things that we're being that day, not doing, what we're being, day after day, become the people that we are, and then become our life. So if I want to change my life, or I want to improve my life, I want to become something better, I do it on a daily basis. That's how I set my way of thinking.
I love that. Because, yeah, and that what you just said is really, really true. That, you know, I think there are very few people on the planet who don't wish that they had a better life than what they have every single day, right? And some people have amazing lives and they still want bigger and better. And personally, I think, and you and I have had a short discussion, at least I think, on this, is my belief is that what we want is just to be happier day to day. Right? We want to be happier today than we were yesterday, and we want to be happier tomorrow than we are today. And everything that we do is an attempt to accomplish that. And what you were saying about setting an intention to do things differently in the coming day is setting an intention to be a different person. I want to say better, but you know, it depends on what your intentions are. But generally speaking, I think we all want to be a better person, and it's one of the tricks. It's one of the ways to do it. I mean, you have to. It's a conscious choice that has to be made somewhere along the line, I think, right? To be a better person. Otherwise, it's just a luck of the draw whether you get much better. But if you want to make real progress, you have to put a little effort into it. You have to be intentional about it. And
I would even take it to the level of saying, create your B list, not to-do list. Create a B list. You want to be happier? Okay, what does that mean? What are the activities that can be done on a daily basis that you feel can make you happy, so that you can start incorporating them into your schedule, into your daily life, so that at the end of the week you can go, okay, here we go. We've added some things in. If you want your relationship to get better, to be more connected, where are you building that into your relationship, into your schedule, so you can see it? There's no magic to anything except what are we intending and what are we focusing on, and are we putting it into our daily practices, and not, again, as a check-off list, because that's truly what I was doing when my sister was well. I was taking care of all these things and I was checking them off and thinking, boy, I'm doing great. When I realized I was missing the time that I would sit with her and would have conversations, my brain is on something else that I need to accomplish, that I need to get this done. And I end up missing what's important.
Yeah, you weren't really connecting in the moment.
So that to-be list is really about just not really living every possible thing you can in your day. Fully living it out. No matter how you set it.
Let me play devil's advocate, because I know that there are people out there who are going to say, all right, she's telling me to add some things to my list. You should see my list. Right? So there is an exercise it's from the Abraham Hicks world, where you make your list and you make all of the things that you need to get done. And they may not all be today, right? But you put your list together, and then from that master list, you pick 2 or 3 things that truly need to be done right away and that truly require you to do them. And then that's what you focus on for the day. And everything else is turned over to the universe to accomplish. And somebody who's got a long list and is used to trying to accomplish everything on the list on their own is going to hear what you're saying and say, I don't have room to put more things on my list. But if that person was to sort of take a different perspective on their list and say, okay, what's truly important? And what Rima is telling me to do sounds pretty important. So I'm going to put that on this side of the list, the sheet of paper, so that this is my responsibility to handle, along with these 2 or 3 other things. Suddenly they don't have this 400-page list. They've got a short little list of things that's really, truly important for them to handle. Everything else is not their job to worry about how it's going to get done. The amazing thing is if you can do that and turn over, everything to the universe, amazing things can happen in your life. We are in the habit, I was tempted to say we're wired for this, but I think it's just a habit. We're in the habit of trying to control everything that happens to us, right? We want to know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who's going to bring it, what it's going to look like, how long it's going to last. All of that, we want to control all of that. And none of those things are truly our job. And because we can't do a good job on that. If we are able to direct the universe to take care of it for us, the universe will handle that stuff much faster and much more creative and normally much more satisfying ways than we would do on our own. So I will ramble like that.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm actually challenging people to look at their list, just like they're saying, and take things off, and the things they keep on, why are you keeping it on?
Right.
And who are you being in those things that you left on your schedule? If you left a simple meeting with your partner, why is it important to you? And when you show up to that meeting, are you fully showing up with everything that you have to get the best out of you and out of them? Who are you being in that meeting? If you put on your agenda a time to have dinner with your wife, do you show up for dinner with your wife? Or are you bringing with you all this other stuff that might be happening during the day that has no business being at that dinner?
Right.
I'm starting to say you make those decisions and those intentions that for now, I'm here. I'm at dinner with my wife. That's where I need to be, and that's what I need to enjoy. And if I can live that time, then if I do that every day, my week is going to start to feel more fulfilling. It's not about adding to the list. It's about analyzing the list and going, why am I doing it? And who am I being? And is that the person I want to continue to be?
Right.
Just being aware. And it's every individual's responsibility to do that. It's not your responsibility to be aware of who I'm being. Just who are you being?
Right. Nobody else can improve you. Right.
You.
Right.
You're responsible for you and the energy that you bring and the person that you're being. It's just not about adding to your list. It's the exact opposite. It's saying,
Right.
Let me look and see what else can I either take off the list or just shorten the list or be more alive in the list. Mm-hmm. And I would take it one step further to go, what do I want a year from now? And where am I being that person, even in a little bit of chunks of time, so that I can start to really let the universe know,
Right.
Yes, this is what I really want.
Right. I would add another question when you're looking at these items on the list is does this serve me? Does this take me where, just what you were saying, does this take me where I want to be? a week or a year or 10 years down the road. And if it
Where do
really
you want
doesn't, and if it really isn't necessary to do, maybe you don't need to worry about it.
Correct. It's not just where you want to be, who you want to be. It's a combination. And I think that's some of the missing link, if I can say that, is the people that they're not putting into their life their complete selves. That's how I feel there's some missing when we connect with people. It's like, where are you? Mm-hmm. Yes, you see them across from you, but they're not really there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you run into things like that where you're sitting with someone, but where are they? They're not really here.
I've never had that experience. When I'm awake. Yeah. No, it makes me think that it's a parallel, or it's a piece of the issue that in particular, apparently it's a male problem, but men tend to identify, especially as we get older, I guess we tend to identify with the job that we do, and if that goes away by choice or by force, mm-hmm. then we can be just feeling lost. We don't know who we are anymore, and we don't know why are we on the planet, that kind of thing. And that only happens because the focus is in the wrong spot. Right? And you're talking about adjusting your focus and putting it on the things that are actually important, and not the stuff that
matter.
Lets you buy a new car or whatever,
But you're a complete being. You just said something perfect. When we start to associate with what we do or how we create a living, and we separate from the person that we are, regardless of what we're doing, that's when we start to have challenges. But I'd have to say society is teaching us to be a little bit of that.
Absolutely. More than a little, yeah.
Yes. So we need to go back as human beings and go, I arrived on this planet for a reason, and I get to discover it. I get to expand it. I get to live it. No matter what I choose to make my living in, it doesn't matter. I'm still a complete person at all times. And that's what I want people to start to realize, that we all go up and down.
Yeah, and we attach our identities to something other than us. That's the problem. And it doesn't matter what that thing is, whether it's a job or a relationship, or because the manager at a big corporation who loses his job, he's been there for 20 years, he suddenly is no longer this high-powered guy. Well, his wife sometimes identifies herself as the wife of a high-powered guy. And when that goes away for him, that goes away for her. Mm-hmm. Right? So women can have the same issue.
Yes.
It's just identifying yourself as something outside of yourself first. And we all have to have labels of different kinds, and it's just that's what makes life work. But yeah, first and foremost, your first filter on everything ought to be human being versus, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm Asian, whatever the filter is. That if that's where you go first when something occurs in your life, you're headed down the path for unhappiness, because it'll never get any better. There will always be something else to set you off,
Plus, taking that a step further, if people could start to look at a complete life, not just in sections, career, family, this, that, it's a complete life. And if you could chart your own life and go, okay, I'm spending all my time on personal development, let's say, and I'm spending very little time taking care of my relationship. Well, at some point you're going to have a problem in your relationship, because you've neglected it. You weren't being present for that portion of your life. And now the universe is going to respond and go, oh, you don't care about that? Okay, let me send you something to affect that.
Yep.
So it's not as gigantic as we make it. It's just being aware to go, where's my full spectrum of life? Complete spectrum. And where there's no magic, if I'm not touching something and being in it in every aspect of my life, whether it's on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, I can't get mad when it falls apart.
Right.
If I'm not being fully aware of what's going on in my life, I can't get upset by things that don't go the way I expected them to.
You're talking about, claiming that victim status, right? Because
Pretty much.
that's a piece of that, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. When I got that phone call one day after almost 15 years, and they said, "Go home. You don't have a job anymore." It's only because of the ideas that I had been taking in for a long time that made me think differently about it. But I didn't feel like I had been a victim. I was not victimized. I got what I had been asking for a long time, for years, and that was my freedom from that job. Even though I liked the job, I liked the people I was doing it for, I liked them. I was getting paid good money for the job I was doing. I was very comfortable. But for a long time, I had been telling myself, this isn't good. It's not a career. It's not a place to stay if you want a career, right? It's not going to, after a few years, I had learned pretty much everything I was going to learn in order to do the job. And I wasn't going to grow out of it, and it wasn't going to take me anyplace else. But I was comfortable with everything else, and so I didn't worry about it. But there was always something, I should really start my own side thing or whatever, and eventually that stuff comes back around. The universe gives you what you're asking for. So when it happened, because I was aware of this stuff, I didn't say, oh, well, look, the universe took a crap on me. No, it delivered to me exactly what I had been asking for, not on the terms I would have liked.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me freedom from that job, And
it's incredible how that works.
Yeah, and you hear, if you give people a chance to talk, you will hear very similar stories over and over and over. It's just, pick somebody walking down the street, they've got a similar story.
Correct.
Whether it's how they process what happened, that is where the variations come. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So where do you want to see yourself in a few years?
Well, that depends on what aspect of life you're talking about. Well, we just had a conversation before we started this conversation, and I told you a little bit. So I want to do teaching, right? I want to talk about some of these same ideas in a different format. I want to do presenting of it sounds like I'm got a big ego or something, but I want to present ideas. These ideas can change people's lives, which means they can change the world. Right? And that's a whole other conversation about what do you mean by change the world, and it's a phrase that makes people think, oh man, you got to do these amazing things. You don't. Changing one person's life is changing the world. And so if you can do that, you can be really, really happy within yourself, just knowing that you touched somebody. And so that's what I want to do. I want to make an impact somehow. And it's not even, it doesn't really even matter whether I know what the impact ultimately is. Right? You give somebody a new idea and they go, oh, you can see it hit them sometimes. Oh, and the eyes are like, oh, they're chewing on that. you may never know what they do with. They may never do anything with it. Doesn't matter. You did something in the moment that changed that person, and that's all you can do. You can't change them for them, right?
Yeah.
You can provide a new idea.
Themselves.
Yeah, nobody else can do it for them or for us. Big lesson,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so that's what I want to do. Give people help them to have the opportunity to change their own lives.
Love it.
And we'll see where that takes me.
I'm going to go back to what you were saying earlier about your job
Mm.
and how you planted almost the seeds for it to happen.
Absolutely.
I've had several conversations recently with people that I've met where you could see their thought process of where they are by the words that are coming out of their mouth. And then they go, I really want my life to get better. And go, that's not what your words are saying. If those are the things you're saying to yourself, you're definitely telling the universe you don't want it to get better because you enjoy saying the things that are impacting you negatively. So
That's
the words, and
you
I
know,
know you've heard it. What you
yeah.
say to yourself is,
Yeah,
what's
I have to stick this in here because it's something that I learned a long time ago, and I'm thinking that it came from Robert Ringer, who wrote 2 books that of any book that has, I would point at that was a life changer for me. Looking out for number 1 may be it. But it's either in that or it's in Winning Through Intimidation, but somewhere in there, I'm pretty sure it's him. He says that, what does he say? I just like that, I lost what I was going to comment on. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
that the thought process gets them to where they are, so the words they're speaking creates their reality of what they're living. And if their words are matching what they're saying, they're really not looking to improve.
That's what it was, is that no matter what well, let's just say it this way. When those people are complaining about something, they're not changing it because they're getting something from that situation. Right? There's something that they are able to draw from that feeds something within them. May or may not be a good thing, but they're getting something from this. My mother went through her whole life believing she was a victim, and she would go from one person to another person to another person, and she would just, sorry, Mom, but she would just complain. She would just vent all the time and tell you would hear every detail about all of the crappy crap she was going through. And eventually, whoever that primary person was that she would go to would get tired of hearing it, and there would be a falling out of some kind, and that person would become a bad guy, and she would move on to somebody else and start again. And that person doesn't know what they're getting into. And so they would hear this for weeks, months, whatever, and eventually they get tired of it. And you ask the question, well, what are you doing about it? Well, didn't you just do this because, you're a bad guy now. And I became a bad guy to my own mother because I didn't let her get away with it at some point. But she was getting energy out of being a victim. It allowed her to reinforce what she believed, and until somebody disagrees with her or points out the fallacy in what she's saying, then because this is, we have these programs, these beliefs in our heads, and we get tons and tons and tons of information coming at us every second of the day, but we filter out all but tiny slivers of it, and we only hang on to the stuff that reinforces what we already believe. And so when somebody is forcing another piece of information on you that doesn't jive with what you believe, I don't want to hear that. And that's what my mother would do, is just move to the next person. So, yeah. It's we are fascinating animals. It's it's fun to get into this stuff. It's also, it's peeling the onion. There's so many layers and so many directions you can go, and no two people are exactly alike, and no two people think exactly the same things, and makes things challenging sometimes to try to get a message across or to try to make sense from something that somebody's saying. But
to me, it's just intriguing to look at our planet in general and how many generations have come and gone before us, and we're like little specks going through such a short time frame. Life continues with or without us, but yet we waste so much time analyzing and wasting instead of just living and being who we need to be, creating a life that we love. Like you're saying, not your mom, but a lot of people will spend time focusing on what's already happened. How is that going to change?
Yeah,
it's happening. Where are you going?
Right.
Just life is going by so fast, and that's what I want people to just really open up their eyes and go, life is going to go by me. Let me be present and get as much out of it as I'm supposed to.
Just ask a parent, right, who's got a kid who's going away to college, and they're looking and go, well, 2 weeks ago she was in diapers. What happened? Right? 18 years goes by like this. And and we rarely spend much time really truly trying to make the most of the time in between. So is it okay if we change gears a little bit?
Sure.
You came here when you were 9? Did I hear that
12.
right? 12. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to ask is how much of, and I don't know the particular conflict that you witnessed or how much of that you did witness. I'm wondering if there's something in particular that you can point at that had a particular effect on your mindset today coming out of that helps. Obviously, there's no argument it helped to shape who you are, but you could have been a very different person, right? It's all about choices. You could have been just mad at the world and all kinds of things, right? But you're definitely not.
No.
So how did Rima come to be?
I got to see a little bit of the war, in the sense, the very first battles of the war. And I can give you one example. The very first start of the war, my parents were having a party at the house, and then the war started, and they told us to get under the tables and to be completely quiet, not to make any noise. In my mind, I didn't know what that meant. But I saw one of my cousins who was trying to go across outside from one section to another, and he's being shot at.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around.